population as well is a huge and giant challenge. And in the time frame since 1970 to the present day, which is not really all that many years, just 45 years, right? We have found the Earth's population in that time frame has gone up 185%. That's a huge amount. But in that same time frame of 45 years, wildlife on the land has gone down by 40%. Marine wildlife has gone down by 40%, but I think it's more than that. I mean, could be an old map or an old chart. And then Earth's freshwater wildlife has gone down by a startling 76%. So, you know, everything is on the decline except for the human population, which seems to still be exponentiating. So all these people need a lot of water. And in fact, we are wringing out the water of the world. And if you want to find out more about population, please read the work of Paul Ehrlich. He has written The Population Bomb back in 1968. He's an esteemed professor at Stanford University. He is in the Center for Conservation Biology. He knows a lot about this, so I encourage you to investigate his books. This is an illustration of all the groundwater basins on Earth, and you can see that they are actually starting to run out. And the way this graphic reads is the blue ones and the ones that are kind of blue and green are still in fairly good shape from some respects, but the ones that are getting to be red and yellow and orange are running out, and they're running out pretty quickly. So, you know, this is something we're going to be hearing a lot more about as time goes on and as these water stores draw down even further. And of course, we all know about the drought in California. We don't have to go into that and expound on it, but you know, California is in a very, very serious situation. It's been in drought for 4 years, and their water situation is terrible. I'm originally from California myself. My heart goes out to all the people in California's terrible situation with the drought. Lake Mead is a source of water in California, and it is just going down and down and down. And it went under the 1075, that's altitude, hard line, and it was the lowest level ever recorded in June 23rd in Lake Mead, and I don't know what's happened since then. So, you know, look at this picture. Isn't it gorgeous? This is taken from the International Space Station. This is a picture of New York and Long Island. You can see New York and Long Island here. This is the eastern seaboard. You can see Boston, you can see all of these cities, but these are all powered by fossil fuel for the most part. Civilization is a heat-producing engine. It's been said so by many people, and in fact it is. People produce heat, especially the way we've got it set up. Here's another picture from the space station that's taken flying over Spain and France and England, and it's absolutely beautiful until you realize that we are actually powering all that beauty, the night lights, with fossil fuels. And since 1965, our fossil fuel usage has just about tripled, and that is actually pretty stunning, especially when you consider we're supposed to be decreasing our fossil fuel usage now, not increasing it, knowing what we do about the changing climate. So how does it break down within the fossil fuel emissions that well, we can see you've got a lot of coal and oil in there as well. We have natural gas and cement manufacture and flaring. So the most of it is coming from oil and coal. And continuing to burn fossil fuels risks passing a tipping point beyond which rapid destabilization and release of carbon stores becomes locked in. My estimation at this point is that we actually have already passed this tipping point. But look here, this is our plans for the future. We plan to actually keep increasing our coal. We plan to keep increasing our liquid fuels, and we also plan to keep increasing our natural gas. So it doesn't look, you know, based on this graphic from International Energy Outlook of 2014, it doesn't look like we're actually concentrating very much on decreasing our carbon dioxide output. It doesn't look like we're serious at all, in fact. But there's something else that we really have to consider, and it is this, and we haven't talked about it thus far. It is the concept of global dimming. And what this means is that, say, civilization overnight just like caved and no more fossil fuels were being burnt. Like all of a sudden we stopped. What would happen if we stopped all fossil fuel usage instantly? Well, what we would find is that all the particulation that goes into the atmosphere from the energy generation and creation from the fossil fuel usage will actually fall out of the sky. It's particulation, and it kind of shields us a little bit from the sun getting through, so it actually presents a global cooling sort of profile for us. That is most temporary, and when 9/11 happened and the World Trade Center got destroyed and all the airplanes stopped flying for about 3 days, they found an almost instantaneous jump of a degree Celsius in global temperatures. And that's stunning. And that's just from the United States stopping its planes. So global dimming, very scary. You know, we have warmed the world more than we thought. Because if we stop, then it's just going to get hotter. So that's difficult. There are a lot of people out there that have climate plans and policies, and I'd really like to encourage everybody to check out Sam Carana's climate plan on the Arctic News blog spot. He looks at a kind of a broad sort of blend of actions that have to do with emissions cuts, carbon dioxide removal and storage, solar radiation management, land, clouds, and ice management, and methane management. So please check out Sam Carana's climate plan on the Arctic News blog spot. So in summary, this is the feedback system. We've been talking about feedbacks today. High levels of CO2, carbon dioxide, heat the world, which melt and release the methane. This methane heats the planet more than CO2 itself, and this destroys the ecosystems and releases more CO2 in turn. It is, in fact, a runaway, self-reinforcing feedback system, and it is in process right now. So let's take a look at this now. This is the runaway and global warming extinction diagram of doom, brought to us by Sam Carana. Thank you, Sam, for so succinctly pointing out and decoding all these different environmental factors and systems. So we've talked about all of these things here today, and you can see that the climate is all connected. That's why you can't say this storm is caused by global warming or this storm isn't caused by global warming. You can't really break it down like that. It's all connected, and these are all the various parts of the same system that is all connected together in the web of life that forms our life on Earth. So it is the nature of a single amplifying feedback that they tend to kick off other feedbacks. This is exactly what is happening in the Arctic right now with Arctic methane. So let's take a look again at the global methane levels forecast to 2021. We can see we are on a polynomial trend line going up. And in fact, the release of greenhouse gases resulting from thawing Arctic permafrost could have catastrophic global consequences. The real and imminent threat posed by permafrost thawing must be communicated clearly and broadly to the general public and the policy community. So says a scientist out of Woods Hole, Max Holmes. And that is what I've tried here to do today, is to communicate what is happening with our beautiful, beautiful Earth. I'm making a stand for the Earth. I'm making a plea for the Earth, that we come together in a time of compassion and try and put aside our differences, because we have got some really big challenges in front of us. In fact, look at this polynomial trend line, number 3, the white line in front of you. This is the runaway global warming projection, and this is, in fact, what they think might happen if all of these feedbacks, start going off and interacting with other feedback systems. It all, like 2 + 2 is 100. That's kind of how it works, because there's so many moving parts, and they all affect each other. Further warming in the Arctic Ocean could cause methane to erupt from the seafloor of the Arctic Ocean in quantities that could quickly double and triple the amount of methane in the atmosphere. We haven't been above 700 parts per billion like forever. Now we're at, 1850 parts per billion. But what if we doubled or tripled that amount like really quickly? What would happen to our atmosphere, and what would happen to the temperatures? The combined impact of such feedbacks could wipe out crops, deplete water supplies, and make huge number of species go extinct very quickly, including human beings. So the temperature has increased in the past, right? I mean, it's happened. We've had, deglaciation before. We've had temperature increase before. The world will still go on. We will adjust, no problem, right? Well, let's talk about that. This time, when we're going into this crisis, we have 400+ nuclear power stations. I think at last count there were 420. Each one of them needing constant attention, each cooling pool needing constant attention. In addition, we have deep sea platforms that are drilling for oil all throughout. In addition, we have dangerous chemical plants and oil refineries that are all over the Earth. In addition, we have tailing ponds from tar sands. And in addition, we have nearly 8 billion people heading towards 10 billion. They are armed with, some of them, nuclear, chemical, and conventional arms. In addition, we have 50 million years of trapped methane in the Arctic and billions of years of trapped carbon, all simultaneously being released. We are in a pickle, but to destroy your planet's home ecosystem for imaginary wealth is highly illogical. So well said, Mr. Spock. Thank you for your input. As we see, the risk exposure is increasing, but the ability to cope with risk is decreasing. Everybody wants to know, how long have we got? I don't know how long we've got. All I know is trend lines and consequences of trend lines. But what we can say is this. There are consequences to super exponential growth in which we are currently engaged. We will hit about 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide sometime between 2030 and 2035. This is far faster than normal estimates. Likely, the safe level is below 300 parts per million, but that's 100 parts per million behind us already. So the increasing rate of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere means that once we hit the critical level, we will be going full speed. This is exactly like accelerating a car into a wall. I can't really put it any more clearly than that. I'd like to thank Kevin Lister for this amazing analogy. It is so true. There's a great book that came out last year by Elizabeth Colbert. It's called The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History. She writes so well. It's a deadly message. It's delivered in elegant prose. We cannot afford to ignore this message. If you haven't had a chance to investigate this book, please pick it up. It's a great book. In summary, this is where we are. These are the runaway feedbacks of our diagram of doom. It's not nice to look at, but we have to go through it. If we want to put ourselves in a box, we're in number 3. We're in abrupt climate change. We have not yet fully embarked on stage number 4. We've pretty much, taken care of 1 and 2 very fully already. Given what we've given the Earth and how the Earth reacts to carbon dioxide, we can expect mass death and destruction to come our way. In fact, we can expect massive methane releases, and they will be abrupt, and they will be unexpected, and then they will go away, and we'll think everything's okay, and then it'll start up again. So methane releases in bursts and flares because it's so dynamic. It's really, really scary. There's so much methane in the world. It's unbelievable. But, we have to take a look at this, and this is what it looks like. Now, this has not been an upbeat sort of presentation. In fact, you can say it's been sobering. What we are looking at this point is our own extinction. We are putting a couple hundred species to extinction every day. It's stunning. One of these days, it's going to be us. Who knows when that will be? Maybe human beings will persist in little groups here and there. We don't know. Now, let's take a look at the future and our trajectories and how we're handling this. Easter Island, we all know of those great statues on Easter Island, but when those natives were discovered by ships going by, they were all starving. And that's because they depleted all of their natural resources. They had no more trees, they had no more food, they were starving. This is the current strategy that we are employing as we address this crisis. There's another scenario that could happen, the accidental scenario that entails nuclear war, and that could happen if climate-driven stress and instability results in a bunch of nation states all waging war together. And we're already sitting on a tinderbox, and I just hope that we can get to a place of calm and compassion with all beings. That would be the best approach. If you want to know about nuclear war and the vortex of violence, please check out this book by Kevin Lister. He wrote the book last year, The Vortex of Violence and Why We Are Losing the War on Climate Change. It is a very good book. There's another scenario, and that is the survival scenario, and that is where we actually come together, we put aside our differences, we agree to collective responsibility, selfishly just for our own survival. Can we do that for our own survival? Can we put aside our differences and love each other enough that we can work together to face this head on and agree what is actually happening in the world? This is, in fact, our most desperate hour as a world. We have never been here as a species. And it is imperative that we start to understand, A, what's happening on our Earth, and B, what can we do to come together to address this effectively? And we should, first of all, admit, A, climate change is going on, and B, it's much worse than we ever dreamed. So if we can agree on, you know, we're all in a world that's undergoing abrupt climate change, that might be a good start to coming together and addressing this. Whatever we do end up doing as a world and as a people has got to be done with a lot of compassion, because we are certainly at our most desperate hour. Hubris is the deadliest curse of the human race. This is a lesson that we will probably have to learn for ourselves at the cost of tremendous suffering. So says Chris Hedges, and so well put as well. You know, we have a lot of growing up to do as a species if we're going to learn to address this problem, because we have roused the sleeping dragon, and we will be witnessing the fire breathing of this sleeping dragon that we have roused for the rest of our lives. This has been a really sobering talk, and it's difficult to know how to respond to all of this difficult information. It's so devastating. I mean, how can you even begin to address it? It's difficult to know. But one thing we can do on a personal level is live a life of excellence. Let your light shine so brightly that others can see their way out of the dark. I think this is a time to extend ourselves and our hearts to others around us. So I'd like to thank people for all their great work in the world. These are a list of some incredible activists that have been out there in the world really pounding the pavement with this message, and also, most importantly, how to process this message. I'd like to point people to the work of Andrew Harvey, to the work of Carolyn Baker, to the work of Joanna Macy, and to the work of Francis Weller for emotional processing and compassionate understanding of the situation that we're involved in, called the demise of our dear, beautiful planet Earth. Thank you so much for being with me today and for sticking it out. I know it's been a really long presentation, a heck of a lot of data, hard to digest it all, but I wish you all the very best in life. And I've included some references here at the end. Please take a look at them and look at any works that, you know, speak to you. I wish you the very best in your life, and take care. Thanks so much for hanging out and listening with me today. Bye-bye.